The spring of 1986 was filled with more than the usual hopes and expectations. The squad that had come so close the season before was continuing in its process of maturation. Yet Mets management knew that the roster still needed to be fine-tuned. Over the winter, acquisitions were made. One move was for left-handed pitcher Bob Ojeda, picked up in a trade with the Boston Red Sox. Another deal brought infielder Tim Tuffle to New York from Minnesota, while from within a promotion would be given to Kevin Mitchell, a versatile rookie full of talent. With changes made, the long race began through a season of promises to be kept. The wheel of fortune first turned in St. Louis as the Mets faced the arch-rival Cardinals. A key blow was struck on April 24th. It was the ninth inning of the series opener.
2-2 to Howard Johnson. The Mets need a long ball. They might have it. This ball is out of here, and this game is tied. Oh my goodness, so much for fate.
It just kind of showed that the Cardinals that we were going to be tough to beat. You know, in the previous year they'd handle us pretty good early in the season, and we were showing them this year that we're going to handle them.
We'd be in the next 3 games fairly handily, and their season went down the hill after that. I think they had so much emotion in that series that after we beat them 4 straight, that just eliminated them from any kind of contention.
Finishing April with an 11-game winning streak, the Mets had vaulted into first place in the National League East. From there, the 1-2 punch of Lenny Dykstra and Wally Backman continued to ignite a club that refused to yield its hold on the top spot. Putting hustle into muscle, Dykstra and Backman weren't pretty, but they got the job done. Say the same for Kevin Mitchell, an amazing rookie who took care of business at 6 different positions in '86. Day in, day out leadership came from Keith Hernandez, consistent at bat and in the field, as well as from the kid, Gary Carter, who tied a club record with 105 runs batted in. Another power source was Darryl Strawberry, who lit up pitchers along with Ray Knight, a man with the knack for the big hit. In all, these Mets had the league's best offense, quality matched by the men on the hill. Mets pitchers kept matters well in hand all year long. Newcomer Bob Ojeda exceeded even the most optimistic predictions with a team-leading 18 wins and a 2.57 earned run average, second best in the National League. A similar impact was made by imposing Sid Fernandez. El Cid sizzled much of the summer, reaching a career high with 200 strikeouts, 4th best in a league that had to learn about him the hard way.
Look out, world. Here comes the kid from Hawaii. He's the first 12-game winner in the National League.
Meanwhile, the Mets' other Hawaiian native, pitcher Ron Darling, had an impressive year of his own. Darling endeared himself to New York with 15 wins and 21 decisions while posting a 2.81 ERA, indicative of his sure-handed control. But the best sign of Mets' success was the surgical precision of Dr. K, Dwight Gooden, who became the first pitcher in history to strike out 200 or more batters in each of his first 3 seasons. With 17 wins, Gooden was plenty.
Ball to Gooden, to home, to first. Dwight Gooden with a 1-2-3 double play to end the ball game.
A solid complement to the starters were the boys in the bullpen, led by the righty-lefty tandem of Roger McDowell and Jesse Orozco. They could be counted on for a strong finish whenever pitching coach Mel Stottlemyre needed to dial a little relief. McDowell set a club record with 75 appearances while racking up 22 saves. At the same time, Orozco notched 21 of his own, surpassing Tug McGraw as the Mets' all-time leader in saves. In a year of good news, Lee Mazzilli's return to New York was one of the toppers. After a 4-year hiatus, Maz came back to the Mets in August. It was a homecoming worthy of celebration.
Here's a drive off Mazzilli's bat. Gone, Lee Mazzilli! And they love him even more at Shea Stadium now.
Taking over in the tradition of Ed Kranepool and Rusty Staub, Mazzilli provided leadership and timely pinch hits. Both qualities would be appreciated even more in October. But first, a glorious September when the Mets finished one chapter of the season and began another.
It's party time at Shea as 50,000 fans are generating their own electricity. 13 years of waiting. Ground ball is second. Backman to Hernandez. The inevitable has finally become a reality. On September 17th, the New York Mets become champions of the National League's Eastern Division for 1986.
On to the Astrodome, home of the Western Division winning Houston Astros. During the year, the Mets lost 4 of 6 in Houston, and nobody expected the League Championship Series to be a walkover. Proof of that came courtesy of Mike Scott. One of the year's most dominant pitchers, Scott struck out 14 en route to a shutout. The deciding hit, Glenn Davis's home run as Houston defeated New York 1-0 in the Mets' first postseason game in 13 years. But manager Davey Johnson could take comfort the next night as Keith Hernandez and company were making life a little uncomfortable for Nolan Ryan. Already up 3-0 in the fifth, the Mets had Dykstra on third and Backman on second with Hernandez looking fastball all the way. One-run scores and quickly another. The New Yorkers staked themselves to a commanding 5-0 lead on the strength of Hernandez's triple. Now en route to a decisive win, the Mets returned home with a split. Stricken with pennant fever, the city was totally taken by the Mets ball club. The electricity was turned on at Shea Stadium for Game 3, a memorable Saturday afternoon. An early 4-run Astro advantage didn't still the crowd. In the 6th, the Mets rallied, a single blow coming from Darryl Strawberry. Straw stirred Shea to a frenzied pitch with a 3-run homer that tied the game 4-4 in the 6th inning. Fortune seesawed all day, as in the 7th when Houston took a 1-run lead. Down by 1 in the 9th, the home side held out hope as Lenny Dykstra prepared to face Astro reliever Dave Smith with the potential tying run, Wally Backman on second.
Lenny Dykstra, the man they call Nails on the Mets ball club, is waiting. Now the pitch. And a high fly ball hit the right field. It is fairly deep. It's way back by the wall. He did it! It's a home run! A home run! The Mets win the ball game! Dykstra hits a home run! Lynn Dykstra hit a home run! This ball game is over!
Late inning heroics had become the hallmark of 1986.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
But the joy of Game 3 soon dissolved, thanks to another dose of former Met Mike Scott, whose split-fingered mastery brought New York up short again. A 3-1 Houston triumph had evened the series. Pivotal Game 5 went to extra innings, tied at 1. With the Mets batting in the bottom of the 12th, Gary Carter came up big. Wally Backman scampered home with the deciding run, and the New Yorkers were now just one victory away from the pennant. Back to Houston. Were the Mets turning their backs on opportunity? It seemed that way down 3-0 in the first inning of Game 6. That score lasted into the 9th inning as the Astros seemed certain of forcing Game 7. But the only real certainty was New York's uncanny ability to come back.
The stretch is Smith. The pitch. Fly ball, well hit to right center field. Hernandez tagging up. Ball caught by Kevin Bass. Hernandez will score. Tie ball game.
But the 9th inning was only the prelude to a truly amazing outcome. In the 14th, the Mets took a 1-run lead. But now in the home half of the 14th, it was Houston's turn to come back as Jesse Orozco worked to Billy Hatcher.
And a high fly deep to left. Down the line to make no foul waiting. It hits the screen. Tie ball game. Home run.
In the 16th, the Mets scored 3 times. In the bottom of the inning, the Astros tallied twice and had 2 on with 2 out.
This is heart-stopping baseball. Pulsating baseball. Nobody has sat down in the last 4 or 5 innings. Incredible. Now the stretch. The pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Struck him out. Mets win it. The Mets have won it. Oh, they are mobbing Jesse Orozco.
For the 3rd time in their amazing history, the Mets had captured a National League pennant.
It's just unbelievable. I don't have enough words to describe how great it is to be going to the World Series.
This is an awful happy bunch of guys out here. We're just...
Be a part of the resurgence and the fans coming back and bringing back a flag to the Met fans in New York. This is the greatest thing in the world. One more step. One more thing will top it, and that'll be World Championship.
Game 1 of the 1986 World Series got underway against the Boston Red Sox, fresh off a miracle finish of their own. And in this classic match of seasoned vets and raw recruits, it seemed like neither team could shake the first game jitters. Until that is the 7th inning, and a lonely Met mistake.
One down, the pitch, ground ball to second. Huffle has it go between his legs. Strawberry picks it up. Here comes Rice. Throw coming to the plate to Carter, not in time. Throw to second, not in time. Red Sox lead.
1-0. The final and the series score, both in favor of the Sox. Game 2. The Mets had their number 1 pitcher on the mound, but Gooden wasn't good enough, as the Red Sox pounded out a 9-3 decision, taking both the games at Shea and heading home with a 2-0 series lead. The dust had barely settled on the pre-game entertainment when the Mets tipped the scales in their favor.
Number 4, Lenny Dykstra, center fielder.
Lenny Dykstra greased the squeaky wheel, and the Mets responded with a first-inning explosion that put all talk of sweeping back under the Boston rug. Carter helped to fuel a 4-run first inning for the Mets, who dug deep and struck oil. That proved more than enough for Bobby Ojeda, who in his first trip back to Fenway Park stymied his former team and gave the Mets their first win of the series. The victory took a lot of pressure off the Mets, and in Game 4, they looked to Ron Darling to snag still another. Darling pitched 7 shutout innings, and the other half of the battery charged the Boston Knight with 2 towering home runs to spark a 6-2 Mets win and even the series at 2 games apiece. Game 5 in Boston, and some Red Sox glory from the past gave way to dreams of the present, as Bruce Hurst rose to the occasion by humbling the Mets for the second time in the series. The 4-2 win sent the series back to Shea, with a championship for Boston just 1 game away. It was, quite simply, an extraordinary game. One where high-flying Met fans displayed a most enterprising knack. And in the 8th, the Mets showed a talent for coming back.
Hands on their feet here at Shea. Bases loaded, 1 down. Red Sox lead 3-2. Swung on, hit in the air to left field. It'll be caught, runner tagged. Here comes Mazzilli. Here comes the throw to the plate. Not in time. The game is tied at 3-3.
Into the 10th, the tension mounted.
For people to sit still the way this game is going. By far and away the most intense game of the World Series. Now the windup, the pitch to Henderson. Well hit. Deep to left field. Way back going. Gone, a home run. The Red Sox are in front 4-3.
The Sox would add another to make it 5-3. The celebration was on ice. 3 outs were all they'd need.
Now the pitch on the way, hit in the air. Rice is there and has it for the out. And the Red Sox are 2 outs away from a championship. And a fly ball to center. Henderson going back under it now. He has it, 2 men down.
I'd love to lie and say, yeah, I knew we were going to come back. No one, everyone inside and everyone on the bench believed we had no chance. I believe that wholeheartedly, except for 4 guys, and Gary Carter, Kevin Mitchell, Ray Knight, and Mookie Wilson.
It was Carter who sparked a rally for the ages.
Lined into left field, base hit for Carter, and the Mets are still alive.
Mitchell was called on to pinch hit and kept the patient breathing. There was no margin for error on this long day's journey into night.
And that's going to be hit into center field, base hit. Here comes Carter to score, and the tying run is at third in Kevin Mitchell.
Leading now just 5-4, Boston called on Bob Stanley. His mission, erase a budding hero named Mookie.
All I want to do is I don't want to strike out. And it so happens that Bob Stanley threw a wild pitch.
And it's going to go to the backstop. Here comes Mitchell to score the tying run, and Ray Knight is at second base.
Now at that point, a big relief is on me now. I can't lose. There's nothing I can do to lose anymore. When I came to the plate, we were losing, and now I'm still at the plate, and all of a sudden we're tied. I can't lose now, no matter what I do. So I just want to make contact.
Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
It was, you gotta believe, some 13 years later. And as always, amazing. Game 7 still had to be played with the unbeatable Hurst against Darling. Early on, it appeared the Red Sox had recovered, but the Mets hung tough behind the exemplary relief of Sid Fernandez. Then in the 6th, the Mets began to chip away, with Carter reaching out to tie the game at 3. So it stood into the 7th, until Calvin Schiraldi faced series MVP Ray Knight. Both teams would score and score again, but the Mets would never trail. Then in the 9th, Jesse Orosco, and the Mets were champs once more. The Mets had once again captured the heart of the city, as 2 million strong turned out to show their love. And with all the comebacks and high drama, this might have been the sweetest one of all. The calm after the storm. Opening day, 1987. First, there was the matter of jewelry to be dealt with. World Series rings befitting a team of desire, talent, and passion. The best team in all of baseball. And defense of that honor began in typical Darryl Strawberry fashion.
Fly ball to right field. It's way back there. Going, and gone. Goodbye. 3-run home run by Darryl Strawberry, and the Mets lead it 3-0.
The Mets won their opening game in 1987, but their fortunes soon began to slide. All the little things that went so right the year before, this year began to run afoul.
Another breaking ball skied to left. And this ball is it hit a bird. You
You believe that? I've never seen that.
Off the glove of McDowell, kicks away. Can he make? Oh, everybody's safe. How do you like that? And McDowell threw the ball away. Oh, what a crazy play.
But no more sour note was struck than to the pitching staff. Bob Ojeda went on the disabled list, and Sid succumbed to a knee. Rick Aguilera was another casualty, and Cone was out 3 months. All this, plus the early season loss of Gooden. It was up to the offense to carry the team, and newly acquired outfielder Kevin McReynolds did his share, with 29 homers and 95 RBIs, and nary a discouraging word. Howard Johnson began to emerge as a star, with 36 home runs and 32 stolen bases. Hojo joined the likes of Aaron, Bonds, and Mays in the 30-30 club, and sashayed into the hearts of New York fans.
They're standing all over this ballpark and applauding the season that Johnson has had.
And thanks to Darryl, the Mets became the first team ever with 2 30-30 members. No question, the Mets offense had style. Buoyed by their bats, the Mets entered a September series with St. Louis, just a game and a half behind the first-place Cardinals. Up by 1 with 2 outs in the 9th inning of the opener, the Mets could sense the kill.
The Mets fans looking for the final out of the ball game that will move their ball club to within 1/2 game of St. Louis.
But then, a Terry Pendleton home run that tied the game, a game the Cards would later win, a game from which the Mets would never recover, finishing with 92 wins, 3 short of what they needed to repeat as champions. '88 brought the 25th birthday for Shea Stadium, with new paint and a facelift part of the celebration. But there were also changes being made at the upper levels of the Mets organization, with Nelson Doubleday and Fred Wilpon agreeing to share in future Met fortunes, and along with Frank Cashen, hoping to maintain the good times. And no one had a better time in 1988 than David Cone. Cone emerged as a quality starter with a 20-3 record and a fan club that made a point of saying thanks. Cone's numbers were certainly impressive, but in 1988, the Mets made sure another pitcher's number would not be worn again. Tom Seaver returned to have his number retired by the Mets and responded in classic Seaver fashion.
If you just allow me one moment, I'm going to say thank you in my own very special way. And if you know me, how much I love pitching, you'll know what it means to me.
It was a terrific moment for Tom. But as the season progressed, the Mets were pretty terrific too. Fueled by Mookie's desire and a 39 home run performance by Darryl Strawberry, the Mets won 30 of their last 42. The key to that run was the kid from Tidewater, Greg Jeffries, who had 35 hits in 29 games, including 6 home runs. No question, the Mets' minor league star had made a major league impact. The quiet consistency of Kevin McReynolds also continued, with Mac hitting .288 with 27 homers and 99 RBIs. And once the Mets had the lead, Randy Myers kept it. The lefty stopper with the blazing fastball had 26 saves and an incredible 1.72 ERA. On its 25th birthday, the Mets had done Shea Stadium quite proud. And so it was on September 22nd, the Mets pulled another one out of the hat.
He gave it to him. Strike three, ball game over. New York Mets win the National League Eastern Division crown the second time in 3 years.
But all was not perfect in Mets land. As in the waning days of the season, Bob Ojeda suffered a tragic accident and was lost for the playoffs. Minus Ojeda, the Mets went into Dodger Stadium for the championship series against a Cinderella team. But the shoe was on the other foot in Game 1, as Carter flared a 2-run double in the ninth to secure a 3-2 Mets victory.
Center field, coming quickly, Shelby diving, can't get it. Here's the throw, coming to the plate, a collision at the plate, the run is in, Mets have the lead, Mets have the lead.
On to Game 2, where Cone fell prey to the heroics of the irrepressible Mickey Hatcher, leaving New York on the short end of the 6-3 score. It was back to Shea for Game 3, and it was Mookie Wilson who broke a 4-4 tie in the 8th, giving the Mets an 8-4 win and a 2-1 lead in the series. The Doctor was in for Game 4 and carried a 4-2 lead into the 9th. The Mets were 1 out from going up 3-1 when, with a man on, Mike Scioscia destroyed their dreams.
Way back. It may go out of here. It's gone. It's gone. The game is tied up.
Then in the 12th, Kirk Gibson untied it. With Oral Hershiser coming out of the bullpen in the 12th, the Mets stood little chance, and the series now was tied at 2. Fernandez fell victim to Gibson in Game 5, as the Mets lost again, 3-2. Back in Los Angeles, the Mets evened the series behind Cone's pressure performance. But come the 7th and deciding game, they could only watch with a mixture of awe and frustration as the Cy Young Award winner set them down 6-0, leaving the dreams of repeating the glory of 1986 for another day.